Okay, we're live. All right. So let's see. It looks like we got nobody watching. It's fine. We'll see. We'll see what happens. So
Morning time over there, isn't it?
yeah, and hey, what you know what? If nobody joins in, oh well, they'll see it later. We always get views later. So, but hey, I get two people. So hey, welcome everybody. I have my friend David and David, you tell me if I got it wrong. Do I say O'Duffy or is it Duffy or do? How do I say your last name?
So Duffy, yeah, it's no Duffy. It's
David O'Duffy from Ireland, and welcome aboard. We got another episode of Rugieros Corner. We're gonna meet David, talk about David. Looks like I got one person watching right now. ID yourself, whoever is watching, if you would, in the chat. And so, I really quick, I can assure you, Davis, when I was a kid, I used to fantasize about living in Ireland, and you say, "Oh my God, why?" Right? It's always like,
exactly.
"Hey, because you know what? It's always so green, and I've always been into history, and I know you guys have castles. Okay,
Yeah,
so
true.
and anyways, really cool. So I always like to lead off with this. It's kind of the standard question, and you answer how you want, but how so how did you get into wargaming? What was your introduction? Whether that's board games, miniatures, like whatever it
Well,
was. What's your story? How old were you? And how did
yeah,
you get
well,
into this?
uh, I feel to a degree like I almost feel like doing this today. I feel like there's a major sense of imposter syndrome going on for me right now because I've encountered so many of you grognards who've been doing gaming for 30, 40, 50 years. And I'm like, oh my God, my head's going to blow up. But I love that. Like, I look at the golden age of wargaming in the late 60s into the 70s and early 80s, and I'd look at that with a period of awe in my mind about wargaming in the 70s. But I suppose for me, I've always been interested in history, particularly military history, always reading books all my life on that. And the
Uh-huh.
usual scenario, Mark, where when I was a kid, I'd be buying all the Airfix soldiers and setting them up and then figuring out which ones are more detailed, getting faults from Jaeger and all this types of stuff, and just loving it and seeing the difference. Now I have a son who's 8, and in fairness, it's a very different way of how kids grow up nowadays as opposed to how I was growing up, where you had the war films on TV all the time, the westerns on TV all the time. Kids don't have that; they have YouTube or whatever, and here we
Right.
are on YouTube. But yeah, like I've always been into history and military history, and about 15 years ago, Mark, I remember sort of really doing a deep dive into Napoleonic history, and I was really getting immersed into it, loving it. And I'm saying to myself, how could I get more involved in something that I adore reading about? And for some reason, I started thinking about miniature gaming and war gaming, knew nothing about it, didn't know anyone at all that did any of this. And I must have done some sort of internet searches. And this was just before the Coming Storm was coming out. And I must point out that my biggest interest in the Napoleonic Wars at that time, and still is to this day, was the 1806, 1807 sort of campaigns. And I'm like, I'll
Okay.
show you that game at the time, the Coming Storm.
Ah, there you go. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I remember looking up, you know, history and war games, and I found this site Napoleon Games or OSG with Kevin Zucker's stuff, and it was just before the Coming Storm came out. And for me, being such a newbie, first of all, I was shocked with the price of the game, and I don't know how much it was at the time. It might have been about $70, $60.
Right.
And I was going, oh my God, they're that expensive. And nowadays, I laugh at that. But I was thinking, wow, that's amazing. And I didn't bite the bullet. I didn't buy it. Now,
Oh
I did
no.
eventually. It became my grail game to get it. But what I did then, I'd say about a year later, I bought this, which was the Eagles Turn East, which
Oh,
to
nice.
me,
Yeah. Yeah. Have
and
you played it?
I haven't actually because I bought it. I remember setting it out on the table and looking at it and going, oh my God, there's X amount of pages for rules, X amount of pages for scenarios, and talking to a number of guys about it since. I've been told that it's slightly more complicated, but I don't think it would actually
No.
freak me out in any
With
way.
what's really interesting, and first let me say hello to Jeff and Charles Latora. Welcome. Be New from Virginia. Hey, welcome. We got to get some Europeans on here, right? I don't know. We'll see if Uwe or anybody shows up. I should have sent him an invite. But um, what's interesting is, like, I heard you say a couple things, and you know, yeah, first, yeah, there's this old grognard's been around, but this is like a golden age of gaming, and oh, VUCA is on. Hey, all right. Well, at least says VUCA. I don't know if that's Patrick or who that. Oh, Patrick. Hi, Patrick. We love VUCA simulations here. Oh my God, I just love you guys so much. The the OSG is Kevin Zucker. I'll tell you, if you don't have it, get a copy of Napoleon's Last Battles. It's old SPI, and I don't want to rehash. I know online we've talked about, but I think I personally play the games as written, in the Library of Battles. I think are genius, especially the operational stuff. But Napoleon's Last Battles, which of course is like 100 years old now, was my first Napoleonics, and that and War and Peace, and from Avalon Hill, and it's just such a classic campaign, right? In the even though there is the Last Gamble from the Library of Battles, I think the Old Warhorse is decent to play. So, and Napoleonics for me is relatively new. I mean, I play La Bataille, I play some other stuff, but I haven't really gotten into Napoleonics till the last few years. So, now let's see who else we got. Let's see, Jeff. I'm just looking, make sure. Patrick from VUCA, yes. So I guess since Patrick's here, I don't know. We'll see if he's still watching. But do you own any of VUCA's games yet?
Yeah, we've got Knock Paris, and I have what else? I have Traces of War, and what are the other ones? I think I have another one or two.
Okay, you
So
passed. You're on the, you're in the club now. Okay.
I actually think that the standard of design is amazing. It's absolutely outstanding.
No,
But
I've literally. Sorry, go ahead. I apologize. Go
I
ahead.
think what you were saying there a moment ago, Mark, is something that, like, I think anyone who's a relatively newer gamer who hasn't been doing it for 40 years, there was initially a sense of, missed out on that time in the 70s. And, I can't change that. But at the same time, you're right. There is a new golden age going on right now, I think. And it's just so interesting.
Right, let me say two things. First, VUCA Simulations is, and I love war games, and I actually ain't saying this just because Patrick's here. They knock it out of the park. I recently played Bismarck about a month ago there, and you need an opponent, right? I guess you probably could, maybe, I don't know how you'd solitaire, but outstanding, simple, the graphics set the mood. But I'll tell you this, anybody that's watches this or is watching, you don't have a VUCA game, go pick one up. I don't care what the title is. It's like they're that good. And Patrick and those guys, seen them in action in Tempe, and just pay attention to like every little detail. And then what I was going to say is, don't worry about having missed the 70s, because honestly, I'm all about enjoy your journey. And, let me tell you something about the 70s, okay? The games were flawed. They had and it kind of blows, now we have the internet, right? But the inside joke with me and my friends is like, oh my God, we had such a good time playing all those great games. And just imagine they were perfect in every way. No, they weren't. But I always say that, and I hopefully I'm making sense, but I'll say this too, and I want to get your feeling. Like, I think like we owe a debt to the creators. And what I mean is the designers, because if we don't have the creators, we don't have a hobby, right? And so I guess with that being said, and I want to make this shows about you, is So you look like you're like 29 years old. So, I'm right.
I wish, Mark. I'm 50. I'll be 51 in
Oh
February.
my God. Well, see, it must be all that good European living. That's what I
Yeah,
think.
absolutely. If my wife could hear me saying this, she'd be falling on the floor laughing. All this healthy living I've done for the last 40 or years or thereabouts. Yeah, sure. No
Well,
smoking, no drinking, of course, all of that. And just, breathing fresh air and hiking every day. Yeah, absolutely.
no,
Yeah.
I've always said if you don't have a vice, I don't know that I want to trust you anyway. So I think you got to have somebody. You got to have some kind of vice, right?
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: what's your uh, at this point? Do you have like a grail? And I'm not going to ask you the BS question of, oh, what's your favorite number one game? Right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
no.
But that changes, I think, doesn't it?
What's your right? But what's your grail experience with wargaming? In other words, like you war game, I war game because, and I know you've talked about the history,
Hmm.
but what are your favorite parts of your journey? I guess, or
So far, or the ones I'm aspiring to?
yeah, whichever. Honestly,
Well, I
yeah.
suppose it started off like when I picked up those games, like the OSG games, the Clash of Arms games, and I was looking at them. And then some of the experiences I've had lately with the standard combat system, like I remember we played, there's a con over in Ireland in Dublin called Chimera Con. It's actually on in May and in a couple of weeks as well. And it's an opportunity to play those big games that you'll never really get to play that much at home with loads of opponents. So one of the ones that we got to play a couple of times that's been hosted there was It Never Snows. And I've managed to do that twice
Okay.
in different guises and playing with 5 or 6 different people you never met, just turning up and you're shooting the breeze, chatting. And, it just the whole thing about wargaming for me is not only just learning the mechanics, but when you have that moment where something drops into place, you go, "Oh, eureka! I get it." For something that you just weren't getting, and you're thinking, "Oh God, how am I going to get my head around this?" That's amazing. But not only that, it's the opportunity to be around other people, just talking. Whether it's a case of like, do you think I should try and surround or try and pocket these guys, or can I get out of this? And that's one thing that's really important. But the other stuff that's really enjoyable is, talking about games, mechanics, challenges, books. It's never ending. And then you talk about that Grail experience, about what's your next Grail experience that you want to have. Well, there's so many. I'm dying to play the new Winter's Victory at some point. I haven't got it to the table yet. I have it down here. And then I've got 1914 Twilight in the East, which I'm dying to play. I have it here as well, and I'm looking forward to doing that. I'm playing online with a good American friend of mine, Stephen L. Parker, and he's been absolutely great.
I've
Um,
talked to him on the phone. He's a great guy. Yeah.
he's A1. We've been taking it step by step. First of all, we're doing the 1814 campaign with La Patrie en Danger with Kevin Zucker. Now we're doing the Coming Storm, and we're currently playing the Battle of Jena and Auerstadt. And that's been really, really immersive. So what's my next sort of grail after that? I don't know. It always moves on to the next one, onto the
Eh,
next one. I
So,
want to learn GOS, but I'm a bit sort of daunted by it.
well,
But
so do I. So I'll tell you what, I'll get on a plane, I'll fly over, we'll take a month off, and we'll set up Atlantic Wall. Right.
excellent.
No, I want to say, so I heard you talk about, like you said, you're going to sound like you're going to go to this convention, right? Or did I miss,
Mm,
right? And I got to tell you, conventions are the best. Some
mm.
people are like, why go to a convention? I can play with my buddies or whatever. You know what? I like them because you get to immerse yourself around a bunch of other people and just forget about the whole outside world for 2 days, three, whatever
Yeah,
it is, right? And I love the social aspect. And you're right. I got to tell you, I've been gaming. I've been going to conventions. Been gaming since I was 10, but I've been going to conventions. I think probably my first convention I ever went to, I was in high school still. So, like, I was 15 or 16 maybe. but it's always been the social aspect, right? And out of all those years and all those gamers, I'm just going to say it. I've only had to meet and deal with a couple of assholes. Sorry,
Mm,
right?
mm,
For the most part, people are welcoming and you learn a lot. Now, the one thing I always thought was interesting, and like I said, I love the social aspect, but I always love the fact that, and it's happened to me, right? But you show up thinking, oh, I know how to play this game. Like,
mm.
not strategy wise, I mean, rules
Yeah.
wise, right?
Yes.
And oh my God. And I've taught people, and like I said, it's happened to me a couple times where you're like, oh my God, I was playing that totally wrong.
Mm.
And whether you might have learned it with your buddy,
Yeah.
but then you go and oh my God, you're right. I don't know, like it's funny,
Mark,
uh,
I haven't mastered any one game yet.
now you
Like I
never,
love
well,
playing,
you're
but
better.
who does?
You'd be a better man than me if you ever do. I always said if I played to win, I wouldn't play because
Yeah.
and I like to be like anybody. I like to do well, right? But it's definitely more about the experience. Like I'm pretty well known in the sense of people that really know me know I love monster games. Like
Yeah.
I just do. And people don't get like, I'll be at a convention and me and my group be playing. People go, oh, you're never gonna finish that. You're never It ain't about finishing it. It's about the whole experience. Like we're
Yeah.
playing, we're having a great time, we're going out drinking beers or tea, whatever the hell, bullshitting at night, talking about the game and it's like it's like the whole bundle, right? You know what I
Mm.
mean? And
Absolutely.
so let me see, let me look in the comments here. Let's see here. So Jeff asked, and I think you answered that. Do you have conventions in Ireland? Oh, miniature conventions. Well, of course, everybody, Europeans love miniatures, right?
Is that the case? I wouldn't have known. But like, yeah,
But it's a lot bigger, right?
yeah, it seems to be. The community in Ireland is still relatively small. There's one of the guys I got to know in gaming or wargaming. His name is Owen Corrigan, and he's been doing it since he's been a teenager himself. So it's great to talk to someone who knows about the geographical layout of what's going on in the hobby in the country I live in. And we were saying that, the population of Ireland is about 5.5 million. We reckon or estimate there's only about 200 wargamers in the whole country. So it's
You mean
not big.
board war gamers?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I'm
Now, we
sure
could be
if you
wrong.
included miniatures, there's more than that. I mean, none of this is mainstream, right?
No, no, it's not
Like,
mainstream at all.
and I don't know that anybody's done a real analysis. Actually, it would be interesting to get the companies on and say, what are your sales to this country? What are your,
Yes, yeah.
just to see, right? But,
Like there's very few shops in Ireland anyway that you can just walk in and you can find a
yeah, well,
GMC game or MMP game. It's all online these days.
yeah,
But
everybody shops online, which is a shame. We see all the time people bitching like, oh, I can't find opponents, and oh, I can't buy. Well, yeah, because you go online and you're looking to, oh, I'm going to save $2, right? And I'm
yeah,
not making a value judgment for anybody. Everybody's good. Like I buy online, I pre-order, but I also buy from my
mm,
local store, and that's why I have a place that we can go meet up once a month. And
mm,
we do get new players once in a while. I do think what's interesting about Europe and even Australia, I don't know about Australia, but I do think what's really interesting about Europe is is you guys have a lot more free time because I don't know how it is in Ireland, but I know in Europe, like there's what I don't know if it's mandatory, but there's like a vacation period, right? Where
oh, there
pretty
are,
much,
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
that's wonderful. When I was in the service, I remember it was 83 to 87. I was a loadmaster on C-141s, and we'd fly over doing exercises like in Egypt or all over the world, but.
Mm,
And I remember what stuck out to my mind in Egypt. And don't get me wrong, hey, I got to go see the pyramids, got to go see the main. They have a wonderful museum in Cairo,
I've never been.
and but I'd be like, why would you pick? And there'd be people there from England on their annual, vacation or whatever.
Yeah,
And I think in America we're a bunch of damn workaholics. So, but
yeah, yeah.
anyway, I won't veer off where I could go with that.
No,
But
no, like
I think my point is like I think you get a little more time. That's why miniatures I think are bigger. Like
yeah,
earlier on, you said the Airfix soldiers.
mm,
I never got those, but I did used to buy army men, right?
yeah,
And I was a little kid, in the backyard digging trenches and
mm, mm.
shooting rubber bands at them. And then I discovered Stratego and Risk and
Yeah,
Chess.
yeah, yeah.
You
No,
know,
I did have them when I was a kid as well, like Escape from Codex and Risk and all of those, but nothing really wargaming that's more dense or detailed. But the thing is, what you're saying about having more time in Europe, like for me, and maybe I'm just being naive because I still feel relatively new in the hobby. We generally look to the States and go, "Wow, there's thousands of guys over there that are into wargaming. They've got shops that are nearly in, like you've Noble Knight. Every state would easily have their own sort of shop that would sell war games or something like that. There's bigger sort of communities of war gamers. It just seems like the mecca of wargaming in America.
well, I think the focus is, and I'm just guessing here. I don't have any magic, but uh, I do think, and it's definitely population centers like the East Coast in Washington D.C., Virginia. You know,
Mm.
numbers wise, I don't know. I just think board. I think board war gaming is bigger here than miniatures, but in Europe miniatures are bigger.
Okay.
But I do think the pandemic and the popularity of board gaming in general in Europe is a lot greater in
Mm.
general board gaming,
Mm.
but it's kind of got an effect here. I do agree. It sounds like it's a lot easier to get games here than it is in Europe,
Yeah,
because a lot of the companies are here.
they're
But you
based
got
there.
some phenomenal stuff, right? You guys have VUCA simulations.
Mm.
You got Hexasim.
Yes,
You got my lovely brother Uwe over at Sound of
sound of
Drums
drums.
Games, and I, you know, I think Uwe gives me way too much credit for what's going on. But I allow. I'm very humbled he dedicated that game to me. Um,
That's a
but
game I definitely want to play
oh my
as soon as
God,
it
it's
comes
going to
out.
be
I'm dying
amazing. If you don't like it, you can blame me. So just,
to
but you got a guy that's doing a 7 years war game now, and God help me, I can't remember his name now.
Yeah.
It's a newer company over in France, I think. But
Okay, and then you've got
he's on
Bill
Facebook.
Bill
I'll tag you.
Molyneux as well, wasn't he? Bill Molyneux. He was doing those Zulu war games and stuff like that. He had a
Yeah,
few other ones.
but
Yeah, no, I think
but
the States
I,
is probably very interesting. It's very good at the moment, I think.
I like what Charles says. More and better games now. I couldn't agree more. Like I mean, I think it's the quality, the
Mm.
components, the thought that goes into these designs. It's just amazing. He says, don't, oh, Jeff says, don't forget Walter Bajovsky and his new company. Well, Jeff, you're going to have to tell me what the name of his company is because I don't know. But yeah, there's just so much good stuff out there. And,
Yeah.
I think what's fun is,
This year being the year of ALO as well, Mark. There's so many games with ALO. Clash of
yes.
Arms are about to do a reprint of their game on ALO, aren't
Oh
they?
yeah, I'm gonna pre-order it and hope I get it. I mean, it's funny. I have this new rule. I mean, a lot of people know I'm selling a lot of my collection, but I do have this new rule where it's like, okay, and it's really more like I sell 20 and buy one, but if I sell 10, I'm like, okay, I get to buy a game. And
Mm.
I got to tell you, like, I mean, knock on wood, hopefully I'll be around, but like I actually just kickstarted the Divine Right. Right?
Okay.
There's a company redoing Divine Right, which is, if you don't know what that is, it's just a phenomenally classic game that TSR did, and it's fantasy setting,
Okay.
and just and there again, fond memories, but hopefully it's as good as I remember it. I actually have an original that I paid through the nose for.
And
So
is it
which
anyway similar to that Burning Banners game that came out
I
recently?
don't no, I don't think so. I don't know. I have Burning Banners, I think, which looks really good. The
Hmm.
damn thing, I got it, and it like I mean, I'm kind of weak a little bit, but I literally had trouble lifting the box. I think it weighs like 12 pounds.
Wow.
But I mean, and it's just a big box, right? But it's yeah, it looks phenomenal. The wargaming needed that, I think. But you can do a board game geek search, Divine Right. It's
Hmm.
just yeah, really really cool. But it kind of brings me to a question of um, so we've talked about cost. I have my own opinions on that. But
Yeah.
what and if you don't, and I will without shame answer. I'll tell you what. I'll go first. What is the most you've ever paid for a game? And I'm going to tell you right now.
Hmm.
I paid $850.
Hmm.
No, I take that back. Yeah, I did. That was probably my highest cost for one game for
Was it a
Marshall
Marshall Enterprises game
Enterprises
by any chance?
Austerlitz,
Austerlitz.
the
I'm trying to
the
remember. What's the
collector's
most
edition.
expensive?
So I lead with no shame.
Yeah.
But what's the and you
Most expensive one.
what's the most expensive game you've ever bought, and why did you buy it, or what you know?
Well, I can almost measure or timeline my interest in gaming like I've really been more focused in it in the last 5 years, buying games. And initially, I went straight into Commands and Colors and Napoleonics, but I didn't hold on to them. I sold them
Fun,
because I went jumped straight back into Hex and Counter stuff. But
right?
I think, and then I bought a load of OCS games, and I think I spent quite a few quid or euros on Guderian's Blitzkrieg 2. I think I spent about 200 euro on that,
Okay.
unpunched. And then what else did I get? Baltic Gap and all of them. But like, I think the max I've spent is around 200 euro.
Well, and let me tell you why I bring that question up. And I just think it's really interesting because, you're online as I am. You hear
Hmm.
people all the time like, oh, I won't spend this or I won't spend that.
Hmm.
And I'll say this like, and there again, I'm not here to make value judgment for anybody, right? But to me, it's kind of like you got a special occasion. You take your wife, your husband, your partner, whatever, you take them out, you go out for dinner, a couple drinks on the town,
Hmm.
you're going to tip. What's that cost you?
It'll be
And it's
this
great.
for one evening or one
Yeah,
night.
and
That'd
it's
be easy,
great.
$200.
Yeah, and it's great memories, and nobody can ever take that from you, right?
Hmm.
But again, you
I
can
keep
play
saying this
it.
to my wife, Mark. She doesn't get it.
Well, I know. I have the same problem. Thank God my wife's always been really good about,
Yeah.
she's been, well, let's put it this way. She puts up with it, right?
Hmm.
But I'll just say this, like, I just find it interesting that, especially when people are trying to be like, well, 40 years ago, I could have bought this for, well, that was 40 freaking years ago. Okay.
Yeah,
Like, I'll tell
yeah.
you what, I've had people tell me, like, okay, so Axis Empires Ultimate Edition, a game that I really love, huge fan of that whole thing.
Hmm.
And people like, I'm not paying, a pre order was like $250, whatever. And I'm just like, that's okay. Me, I've on my second 4-player game of it,
Yeah.
I've how much does it cost me per hour? Anyway, I don't want to beat the dead
Yeah,
horse. I guess
yeah.
my point is like, so Charles says 145 bucks. It's like, and I get it, people have different range of what they can afford
Hmm.
or what they,
Hmm.
but it's just such like, I don't, like I said earlier, I think when we were talking off before we went live, I have bought games literally just to look at
Yeah.
and like, oh wow, this is so cool. But I
Yeah.
think it all has value, and I always say
Yep.
enjoy your journey. Let's see,
Mark.
Walter's new company. Oh, fella, sorry. So I asked Jeff about who is Walter's company, and yeah, Verdun 1916 Steel Inferno. I actually have
Oh
that. I
yeah.
haven't played it yet, but yeah.
I've heard very good things about that. Yeah, I'll be meaning to pick that up.
Yeah,
But
I'm
what
so
you're saying, Mark, like I think you've heard these sayings where someone says if you pay X amount for a game or X amount for whatever, it's worth that amount to you if you want it, and then
no right.
you can quantify it down if you wanted to say what you said about you've played 100 hours with this game. Like what would that work out at? Nearly 25 cents an hour or whatever. It depends on whatever. If you really wanted to break it down, but at the end of the day, I've been reading about war gamers. Are saying, "Oh, are you a collector or are you a player?" I think all of us are collectors and players. To some degree.
I'm
You
not
know,
a collector, even though I've owned at one point about 2,000 games.
whoa.
I'm just,
Well, you've had
I'm
the
being
aspiration to play them
facetious.
all, though. I'd say.
Maybe not maybe the copy I had, but I'm also a completionist, right? So
Mm,
once I start a series, I'm like, oh, now I gotta own them all, right? But I'm down to about 700 now. But
wow.
yeah, but hey, I got a friend of mine. He's in his 70s. He doesn't know what he's gonna do. He's having some issues himself, but I say he has a collection. His collection's probably last time I talked to him, he hasn't bought a game probably in a couple of years, but his collection's probably about 7,000 games.
Wow.
But
Where
he's
do you
been
put
playing since,
7,000 games?
oh, he's got them all over his house. He has a very
Yeah.
big, large home, but
Mm.
he's been playing since what, 1959, and he's
Wow.
never sold a game ever.
Ever. Not one.
Not one. No.
Wow.
So, he's got, and, sadly, what's going to happen, I'll tell you what happens to collections because I've helped get rid of a couple of them. But the person will pass away. The family might spend a year, maybe 2 years selling and with friends' help, and because I've done it.
Yeah.
And then they get tired of it, and somebody swoops in and buys whatever's left for pennies on the dollar, right?
Mm. Mm.
So if you're buying anything as an investment, don't do it. So, but I will say this, uh, you know, I find what's really interesting is what you said is we're all players and collectors, and I think that's true. It really is, and I got to tell you, I have a certain admiration for the people that because I know a few of them actually. There's a group of World in Flames players lives about 20
Mm.
minutes from me that I used to play with for years.
Mm.
And what happened was I got a job where, as usual, I worked freaking 60, 70 hours a week and couldn't play anymore. And they still play, but literally, like, at least for one of them, the guy that hosts it is the only game he's ever played. He owns two or three others, maybe, but he's played nothing but World in Flames for 30 years.
Wow.
And I got to say, and on one hand, I kind of admire that. On
Yeah.
the other hand, I'm like, yeah, that's so not me because I'm like, I want variety and I want like all these different experiences, right? And I'm Italian, so I talk with my hands, right? But it's just such a beautiful and wonderful hobby in this that if you think like
I can't imagine your friend there, by the way, Mark, how much self discipline he can show.
oh, I know,
I
no,
admire him that he's
right.
played the game for 30 years, but how much self discipline he can hold himself not to buy other games. Because I've been in those situations when I said, right,
Well, you got to know it. My friend Alan, he might even maybe watch this someday. I don't know, but because he's not really online, but he's that kind of guy. He's
wow,
pretty and no, you're right. And there's other people I know. Like I have over the years, I've developed a really great group of local. And local to me is if you're within 2 hours, you're local,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Um, and we do monthly meetups and like there's friends of mine that won't play naval games and there's friends of mine that won't play tactical games and I have friends that won't where me I'm like Mikey, if it's a war game I'll freaking play it.
yeah, yeah.
um, There's literally been one game in my whole life that I just, because I'm the type of gamer too, I'll buy a game and I will find what's positive in it,
Mm.
right? Uh, and the only game that I've ever just, I've talked about it before, is John Prados' Third Reich from Avalanche Press. A, John Prados had nothing to do with it.
Mm.
B, I set it up to play it, and I, it's just it didn't work. Now some people love it. It's a bucket of dice game. So, but for me, literally, you think about all the hundreds and hundreds of games I've seen in my life and have played. That's literally the only game that literally like and even that, if you said, "Hey, Mark, I want to play this," I'd go, "Oh, all right, fine." But you know, but I don't know. I'm
You're a
not
chilled
really
out
like,
dude, Mark. That's just the way it goes, you know.
yeah, I don't really know where I was going with that, but
Mm.
I think what's interesting is like, I. Let me ask you this: so
Mm.
do you have local players that you play with?
Yes and no. Like there are some guys they tend to play a lot of Warhammer stuff or BattleTech and stuff like that.
We say
They
that like it's
do,
a dirty word. By the way, Warhammer is okay. My kids play it. I mean, they're in their
yeah.
30s,
Oh
but
no,
so
I
go
wouldn't
ahead.
be. I'm not dissing it or whatever. It's just
No,
generally
no,
not.
right. I just, yeah.
But yeah, okay. On occasion, like what I tried to do when I'm originally from Dublin. I live down in Wexford, which is about an hour and a half southeast of Dublin on the coast, and it's
Okay.
rural. I love it. But when I moved down here, within the first 9 months, I started to look around to try and find out are there any war gamers here. I didn't dive into wargaming when I was in Dublin, which would have been and would have made lots of sense. Would have been far easier to find people to play with. So when I did that search down here, I found Owen Corrigan, really good guy, and a number of other guys who were playing a number and a variety of games. And in fairness to them, the last time I played a big game with them, it was in my place. I got about five guys out: Chris Newell, Owen, Tom, and another guy, and we ended up playing a five-player game of Victory Awaits, and it was just so much fun. It was just, we played for about 7 or 8 hours, had pizza in between, just breaks as we went along, and just, you know yourself. All of us know this. If you played in these type of games, you play, and then suddenly some person might take a break to walk away, and you're talking about everything and anything all day long, and it's just that's part of the hobby. One of the things I also love as well, Mark, is just I don't think I've encountered anyone in the community, and I say this worldwide wargaming community because we're all online talking in different groups on Facebook or on BGG or whatever. And everyone seems so decent and normal and willing to help out and just to be part of a community. And it actually feels of like being part of a proper community. And I said this to you earlier on in a different way. It does seem corny or cliche when you say this to other people because they may not have the luxury of being part of something like that. But I actually feel like, wow, this is great. It's one of the best things I've ever done was really immerse myself into this hobby. And it's like Alice in Wonderland going further and further into the rabbit hole and finding out what else I need to do and what I'm going to be buying. You
No,
asked me to
it's definitely a phenomenal um, community. Um, Absolutely. I know they've been very supportive of me and Elvie, but yeah, no, it is. It's just in so many different ways. We just all share worldwide, like this connection of military history and honestly, I know for me a big part of it, and you've seen me say this before, but is what? When I game, there's always that piece of me when I'm opening a new game and it's like Christmas or
Mhm.
I get to be 12 years old just for
Yeah,
a few minutes, right?
yeah,
Again,
yeah.
like look, these are games. let's not
Yeah.
take it so too seriously, people. Okay,
Yeah.
like I want, and what I mean by that though is like, how much do you have that memory of? I got to tell. I'll share this. So I want to know, like, if you. So I can remember, when you're even 7, 8 years old, and
Yeah.
Santa Claus or Saint
Yeah.
Nicholas, whatever is coming, it's Christmas.
Yeah.
And that night before, you're just like, oh man, I wonder what he's gonna bring.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
That's what
exactly like
gaming
that.
is to me. It's like, my
Yeah.
wife will be, you got another package. I'll be like, oh, I must have pre-ordered that like 5 years ago. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, Mark, it's probably in the name of your handle on YouTube, Clark Commando. You have to be a commando to get the packages in the door these days. So, so like, oh man, when you say that about the Christmas feeling, it is exactly like that. My son, okay, he's 8, and he will be mad about dinosaurs, or he might be mad about Transformers or something like that. And he'll be wanting me to help him try and search this fairly rare one or whatever online. And he'd be talking to me about, oh, I need to get this. And I'd be looking at him going, I'm exactly the same, but about war games. It's not different. He's wanting to get his best toy because he wants to get the other toy for his collection. Wow.
Right. Yeah, no,
So
I'm just sorry. Go ahead. I keep going. I'm just
no, it's
sharing.
like
I'm looking at some of
it's
these comments.
it's just it's an amazing feeling, that anticipation of where you've put in a pre-order on a game, like what's that game that's coming out? Oh crikey, Hitler's Last Gamble. It's coming out soon
Oh
from
boy.
Compass. Yeah, I can't wait. And, the anticipation, like there's a flutter of excitement in my chest and tummy about that.
Well, I
And
don't know. Did you? I recently they sent me the Danny Parker, to be clear, and his crew sent me the only copy
I
right
saw
now,
that.
and I did
Not
a
green with envy at
video.
all, Mark.
What's that?
I'm not green with envy at all.
Well,
Oh,
don't be right, but no, but seriously, when I saw that was announced, like I immediately pre-ordered it, and I'll tell you why. A couple reasons. Just like Jack Rady did Corson Pocket. Okay,
yeah,
Jack Rady had People's War Games. He's in his
yeah.
early 70s now, right? But
Mm,
that was his ode to the hobby. His
mhm.
and he, by the way, he's a wonderful guy. I met him at Expo last year. And but Danny Parker, designer of Last Gamble, is a noted bulge historian.
Yeah,
Who doesn't have? I was looking back in my books, and trust me, you think I got a lot of games. uh, My books are ridiculous, but I have a book that my grandmother bought me actually, and I probably wasn't that young, but I think in my teens. But it's a Battle of the Bulge, and it's one of those bigger books with,
short pictures.
but
It's
it's
long. Yeah.
Danny Parker.
Wow.
And little did I know back then but anyways, he's a noted historian. But for him too, this is his opus to the hobby. And that
Mm,
game, I'm telling you, just the historical notebook and that's coming in that's like 100 and something pages, and it's it's phenomenal. Like
mm.
go look at my people that haven't. You can go look at my video that I did on it if you want
Yeah.
to see what's in the box. I know they launched their Kickstarter and they got their guys showing you the thing. My video is way better, but buy
Of
it.
course it is. Of
So,
course it is, Mark.
but
And that goes without saying. Obviously, it is.
but yeah,
And,
I just think I'm glad you brought that up, that game, because I do think we got a lot of great new creators and stuff,
mm,
but some of these guys that have been around for a while, Jack Green's another one.
Joe Youst as well.
Yeah, Joe's a good guy. I know Joe, and
Yeah, he's like he pops up everywhere. Like one of the things I was doing a game there recently, and then I was looking at the back credits on the box. I was like, wow, I didn't know he did that as
yeah,
well. You know?
yeah,
Ah,
yeah. No,
wow.
there's uh, but you know, a lot of these guys have contributed to the hobby for a lot of years. But
Mm,
man, Last Gamble, I will say this: people that don't order that are going to regret it because,
mm,
and the reason I say that is, it's just a phenomenal piece of work. And you talk about price point.
mm,
I think it's golden. I mean, the
mm.
value you're going to get in that box is great. So
I
Mike
agree with you.
Berticelli's saying, "Hey kids, hey Mike, Mike's going
Hi,
to be
Mark.
at
How's it going?
GMT weekend. He's a designer of GMT's Tank Duel. He's got a Wolfpack game coming. Um,
Seen that? Yeah, looks interesting.
yeah. So
Definitely.
Dave? What's your uh, so I don't want to say your favorite game, and I know you've talked
Huh.
outside of Napoleonics.
Yeah.
Outside of Napoleonics, do you have like a favorite period of history that you like to game and to scale, or either or?
It can change, I suppose. I would definitely say World War One is an era that I'm really interested in. I'm still trying to find out more about different games of all the Weltkrieg games. So you were doing a bit of a deep dive recently into that. It's just I know you were saying earlier on about having the time to play, but I'm trying to make as much time as I can to put a game on the table. I want to play Knock Paris from VUCA. It's
I
just
do
so beautiful
too.
looking.
Yeah.
Um,
I've read the rules. It's actually pretty manageable, I think. So
yeah. Well, I think one of the things when I was playing with my good friend Steve from Missouri. Well, he's not from Missouri, but he's living in Missouri. Anyway, um, what we've had great fun playing lots of different or playing two games at the moment. But what it's done for me is given me an awful lot of additional confidence to play games that I thought would be out of reach because of their complexity. And I was
mhm.
thinking to myself, right, okay, I'm going to have to re-buy the games I sold off. I sold off a number of my OCS games, going, oh, what have I done? And I will.
Right.
I'm going to have to buy them. I'm going to pick up the Third Winter again. I'm going to pick up Hungarian Rhapsody, and OCS now doesn't freak me out or doesn't make me too nervous about the complexity that it comes with it. But I
I
am
think
interested.
people. Oh, excuse me. Everybody has different levels of what they like or don't like complexity wise. But here's what I'm going to tell you, and this from just
Mm,
years of experience. People don't have to agree with me, but if you have an interest in the subject, you'll learn it.
yeah.
And I know that I've introduced a lot of players, but I'm glad to hear you say that. Yeah, because honestly, most games, if you just break it down and you're willing to learn it, and what makes you
Mm,
willing to learn it's going to be the subject matter, not whether
right.
it's simple or not. You're going to learn it and play it. I want to say hi. So Nguya's channel, if you don't know, the guy is a phenomenal Der Krieg, and
Excellent.
yeah, yes, and Chris, his name's Chris, is yes, he said Der Krieg, and it's yeah, great. World War One, I'm going to tell you, you got some great options. There's so many good options out there now.
Mm,
But I will tell you, I'm partial to. Obviously, I enjoyed Der Krieg quite a bit,
mm,
and I guess I recently did a very cursory comparison of World War Two. I guess I need to do a video on World War One, but
mm.
one of my favorites, and I'm a little bit biased, but honestly, is Decision Game Storm of Steel. I helped
Yes,
do
yeah. I've been
the.
meaning to get that for a while,
I
Mark.
If you can get your hands on it and get it with the update, it's
Yeah.
it's it's well worth it. Hi,
You
Hissy
play
Cat.
tested that, Mark, didn't you?
So way back, yeah, I helped play test it, um, and then I worked with Bob Medro on the update uh, kit for it, and sadly, he kind of disappeared. But Bob Medro, if people don't remember him or know him, so he was an original play tester for Squad Leader, Cross of Iron, the old Avalon Hill games.
Hmm.
He was probably in his 80s. His wife, passed away, and after that happened, he kind of disappeared. I kept in touch with him. We used to talk like once a month, and he used to write a lot of articles for the General, and he taught
Hmm.
engineering at University in Missouri, I think it was. But anyways, great guy. And anyways, I don't know what happened to him. I haven't been able to find his obituary or anything, but it's been about a year and his number's been disconnected. And you know, salute Bob if you're still out there. But my point is, um, yeah, Storm of Steel is one of these games that it's decision games,
Mm,
and I'll just leave it at that. You know, I personally like what they do. I think their newer stuff just is getting much better.
mhm,
But also came out when there was a lot of other Roller One games came out,
mm,
and it's just super playable. It's tons of scenarios. It's a Joseph Miranda design.
mhm,
Uh, it's card assisted, not card driven. I did a couple of videos on it. People can go check it out. But yeah,
mhm.
but there's so much good stuff out there. There's that Fatal Alliances.
I have that yet to play it. Definitely.
Yeah,
Uh,
what's Compass Games has done a few World War I games that are
yeah.
interesting.
And then GMT did that game Illusions of Glory. I have it there actually in the desk beside me here.
Yes,
And
yes.
I know there was a few hiccups with it, but I
Pass
think
of
they
Glory.
fixed it
Yeah.
with an update kit as well.
Yeah,
You
you want to
know?
get, you definitely need to get, if you don't have Paths of Glory, I would
Yeah.
definitely get a copy of that.
Mhm.
Just looking at the comments here. Okay. Time for trumpets for Bulge, Jeff. Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Last
Yeah.
Blitzkrieg. But yeah, World War One. I think what's fascinating with World War One is, you know, a lot of us, until recently, it was viewed as this like, oh yeah, there's a lot of fun. We're gonna get entrenched on the Western Front, and
Yeah. Yeah.
but I think in the last few years that's changed. And oh my
Yes.
God, if you look, and this may be well known to Europeans, I got to tell you, at least for me, Mark Ruggiero in sunny California,
Mm.
until the last, maybe 10 years ago, I never really did realize how much we're still paying a price for World War One,
Yeah.
as far as the Balkans and even, the
Yes.
Middle East. And it's like, and I don't want to, get side, but my point is like, for a war that happened, well, now over 100 years ago,
Yeah.
um, boy, the impacts that we're still
We're still feeling them still.
feeling, the reverberations, right, of the impact of, anyways, in the
Yeah.
world.
And you were talking about two other games as well, Mark. Newer games that may not be strictly, I think they were area movement based games. You got At All Costs. I think that's Holland Spiel. And then
Uh-huh.
you've also got Steel Inferno, which we mentioned earlier on as well. Verdun Steel Inferno, wasn't that the one?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. No,
and
I
Hex
have it. I
Edition.
haven't played it yet. I want to, but it looks really neat.
But I'm
Death in
probably
the
going to open.
Trenches.
Yes, I'm. Oh my God! Like I'm just feeling my wallet panic when I'm talking about these out loud. But there's other ones as well. I was thinking about this when you were asking me this earlier on. What type of era am I interested in? And I think somehow, to a degree, where you're from may influence what you're interested in. Like for instance, in the States, you're going to get an awful lot of Americans who will be really interested in Bulge and ACW and so on. But what I found recently with myself is I've become quite interested in American Civil War games. I've got two. I've got Antietam and I've got Shiloh by Worthington Games. And I'm very interested. And God, I'm thinking about this, Tom. What are you doing? I'm thinking about those great campaigns of the American Civil War, which I can see behind you. And I'm thinking,
Yeah.
I'm really interested in them. But part of my interest as well that's going to go with this, Mark, is buying good history books to teach and educate myself on. Because us Europeans would have a very cursory understanding of the American Civil War. We'd have a general understanding, but we wouldn't have the in-depth knowledge that most Americans would have.
I've
And
done
that,
I've done a couple videos on books, by the way. Some good suggestions that I got
oh,
from other people. But yeah.
cool! I'll check that out for sure. I'll definitely check that out.
Now, I will say this. I think you're absolutely right. The one thing I find that I'm most interested in is, yes, World War II, American Civil War, and this and that. But I've kind of been fascinating. Well, like I said, ancients, but also uh, I find it interesting. One game that I'm really interested to see because I just don't know much about it, and who knows if we'll ever actually see the light of day. I'm hoping. But Compass has on pre-order a game that covers the IRA and the all the stuff that went on or between England and
Mm.
Northern Ireland and but also so I'm interested in that just because but I'm also interested like English Civil War and the 30
Yes.
Years War and
Yeah.
there's just all this great rich tragedy, but it's
Mm.
history and it's part of us.
Yes.
And I say tragedy because I think we all smart enough to know that yeah, our society would be much better off without war. Period.
Yeah. Agreed.
But it's still interesting, and I'll share this with you. Like I watched a lot of documentaries. Almost every Normandy, I know I'm jumping all over the place, and I got to tell you, like emotionally, almost every video's got that scene of when Normandy and there's three guys running up the beach. It's like they're Americans, and one guy drops like a sack of potatoes,
Mm.
and you know what happened, right? Like now whether he was dead or who knows, but I got to tell you, whether I'm watching a show about the Canadians or the British or whatever, their commitment, because in America, right? At least as a kid, I had this it was all about Omaha Beach and
Mm.
well, no, we actually had allies that did some other shit, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But I get emotional. I really do. Like I cry,
Mm.
and I'll watch stuff about like Pickett's Charge or
Mm.
and why. I mean, I'm going through what I'm going through. I see a psychiatrist once a month now,
Mm.
but and, she's asked me like, well, why do you think that makes you emotional? And I think what it is like I think about the courage and how scared these kids were. Because let's be
Mm.
real, like they were scared shitless. Like we hailed them as the
Yeah.
greatest generation, and but the reality is they were a bunch of kids that got trained and were doing what they had to do. And thank God I've never been shot at, but
Mm.
they were, and they did it anyways.
Yeah.
Like what kind of courage, what internal fortitude, what
Yeah.
just and commitment to their buddies, obviously, because
It's
I mean that's one thing.
unimaginable, isn't it?
Yeah,
You going up on a landing craft on
it's
the Omaha
amazing.
Beach or any of those beaches. What's
Yeah,
going through your head?
Juno, and
God.
what about that scared German kid on the other
Yeah.
side? I
Yeah.
mean, we always want. Of course, the Nazis were bad guys, but
Yeah.
the the reality is, on a core level, they were told by their government, hey, I mean, I've had talks. I won't name names, okay, but I've had talks with some of my European friends, and I think it's real. Is that if we were born during those times, I would have been an American soldier,
Hmm.
and my counterparts in Europe, maybe they were in the French army, or maybe they would have been in the 12th SS Hitler Jugend, right?
Mm. Yeah.
But and I don't want to get too. But I guess my point is, the reason I even brought it up is I just think I don't know why I brought it up. I guess my point is like that interest in history. What made things tick? What was it like to be on the battlefield in the
Mm.
1300s and in world history? So let me look at oh shoot, we're down in a minute. I like to try to keep this to an hour, so we're getting close. Let me see here. Really quick, let's do this. So Charles says, never thought I would have anything Napoleonic. Then I bought, when he White Dog Crisis on their plants and code. Okay. Now, yep, OSG Napoleonics. So, uh, hey, Andrew, Meandering Mike's with us, Nguaya. So let me ask this. So I'm going to ask this. Do you got any last final thoughts you want to share with your fellow
Well,
hobbyists? Your.
I don't know. Like, I suppose you've been put on the spot in one way, Mark. I just think it's the most amazing journey, and it is a journey. It's always evolving. I love it. I love every day of this journey. I'm enjoying gaming. I'm enjoying seeking out games. I'm enjoying learning things. I'm enjoying meeting people. Like up until 7 months ago, I thought I'd never use Vassal. Thought, no, that's not for me. But yeah, it's cool. It's great. Use it, and then play games on tables as well. But it's just meeting people as well. I'm enjoying it all.
So I got to ask for Vassal. Do you play live or do you play by exchanging files?
Live, yeah,
Yeah, me too. So we're gonna have to organize something. I gotta
yeah.
get the energy for it. So really quick, because I think this question is directed at you because I don't know anything about it. Do you?
Yeah, I suppose I do know a bit, not an awful lot. Embarrassingly, Nangawa or Nangwaya, I wish I knew more about Irish history. I love history and military history, and embarrassingly, my knowledge of Irish history around the early 20th century is not as good as it should be. But yeah, the 1916 Easter Rising was something that was never going to win. They knew that from the get go, that they had set themselves up as rebels with a rebel army to make a point against our colonial oppressors at the time. And it was done, as you all know, in 1916 while World War One was going on. You know, people have lots of different opinions about that, and
Well,
I
what I
think
go
they
ahead,
just
sorry.
wanted to make a point at that time. It was never going to beat the imperial forces that were based in Dublin and Cork and other parts of Ireland at the time. But the one thing that a lot of people around the world may not know, unless they're students of history and Irish history at the time, is a lot of people weren't very pro um, rebelling against the British Empire and doing such a thing in Ireland at the time. They were totally against it. So when they saw the main street being blown up with cannons and shot and so on, people were against it. They were looking at these guys going, what are you doing? But what turned on it was when they were captured, put in prison, and shot. That's when it turned to public opinion. So I wish I knew
Well,
more.
well. So with that being said, I'll just add this, and then we'll say bye to everybody. But somebody has to joust at windmills in life, right? Like, and I'll just let people ponder whatever that means to you. You said they did what they did to make a point. I actually don't know nothing about it. Now I need to go look online and what the hell is the Easter Rising, right? Like I don't even
Yeah,
know what the hell that is. So
yeah. Look it up. Look it up.
I
You'll
will.
like
So
it.
learn something every day.
Mm.
So look, no, thanks David for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mark. I really
Once,
appreciate it.
yeah, no, it was great having you. Once this will be on my page. Feel free to share it, whatever. You'll see people will watch after the fact. If anybody's here actually knows me on Facebook, you want to be on the show, message me. But anyways, thank you, everybody. Thank you, David.
No
We'll be in
problem.
touch. I know you got things to do. It's about 8:30 or so at night there, and I'm just
Yeah.
starting my day pretty much. It's not that early, but um, we had people here from Sweden. We had Ireland. I think it was Sweden. Yeah, I got it all over the states. We had Patrick from VUCA Simulations. VUCA. Oh my God, by VUCA sound of drums. We had Eric's from Eric's Table. Great channel. By the way, if you're into La Bataille,
Yeah,
Eric.
oh,
Actually, all
definitely.
things.
Eric is a
Yeah,
good guy. Yeah, he's a good guy.
yeah. Yeah, just phenomenal. But anyways, thanks everybody. Hopefully I'll have a haircut. I do got a little bit of hair left, not much, but so take care and till next time, everybody. Clark Commando, Dave Duffy signing off. All right. Hey,
Thanks,
see
guys.
you later,
Take
Dave.
care, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye
Bye. Bye.
bye. All right.